my husband doesn't get or struggles to keep an erection with me. He doesn't suffer from ED. I'm losing interest. What can I do? Josh, I'm going to hand this over to you.
Well, I think he does struggle with ED. I think that's kind of what the first part of that question defined. And my guess is that when she says he doesn't struggle with ED, it means that he doesn't always struggle with ED, which can be really perplexing and confusing thing, right? That kind of situational erectile difficulty as opposed to all the time, never able to achieve or maintain an erection, and having a sense that no matter what, I always have a flaccid penis, never able to achieve a full erection or maintain that. And so I think that's probably what it is that is creating the confusion in this situation, is that that's just not always the case. And so it's like he doesn't struggle with it all the time, which can create this real fear and anxiety. Like, is it me? Am I, is he just not attracted to me? Does he not just, want to have sex with me? Is there something wrong my experience that causes this to happen?
Like it could attach like a lot of shame to it.
Totally.
Kind of
Huge shame.
For both.
For both. Right. Absolutely. And so there's a few different things that could be going on here. But I totally understand maybe the fear and even the loss of interest, like she indicated here. Because when we start to feel shame and feel anxiety around our sex life, that has a way of really suppressing our desire. And so if she has this sense of, he's not interested in connecting with me, or there's something about me that she's not attracted to or doesn't want to, or whatever it is that kind of fills in that blank space of I don't know why this is happening. Mm-hmm. That then can translate into something that suppresses her desire, and because none of us like to feel rejected. Right. None of us like to feel failure. None of us like to feel shame. And so if approaching or engaging sexually leads in us feeling rejection, feeling failure, feeling shame, then we're going to eventually lose our interest in engaging sexually. So that's not an uncommon experience for her to be experiencing when faced with a challenge like this. So that's a common thing. Now, on his side, there can be a number of different things that are going on, right? Lots of questions as a sex therapist about figuring out why that is the case, right? So some of the most simplistic reasons why that can be the case are I have an experience where I have difficulty achieving or maintaining erection, which happens to every man at some point in his life, right? Like that's just 100% of men experience erectile difficulties of one sort or another at one point or another in their life. 1 in 1 men. This is normal. That would be like saying that, women experience a sexual experience without having an orgasm, right? 1 in 1 women are going to have a sexual experience or sexual experiences without having an orgasm. That's just normal for female sexuality. That doesn't mean that something's wrong. That's just the way bodies are. 1 in 1 men are going to experience erectile difficulties of one sort or another, one point or another. Sometimes that's just fatigue. Sometimes that's they had too much to drink. Sometimes there's anxiety and stressors of life that are kind of weighing on them, that are distracting and getting in the way physically. It could be any variety of things that cause that to happen. But then it happens, and suddenly there's this fear of, oh my gosh, why did that happen? Mm-hmm. Right? There's this kind of anxiety, like, am I broken? I'm too young to be having this experience, or maybe I'm too old to be having sex, or maybe, all of this fear and angst comes in, and is it going to happen again? And this anticipatory anxiety thing starts, this anticipatory anxiety loop, where I'm afraid it's going to happen again. The fear and anxiety in my body around it happening actually blocks the arousal and becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it does happen again, which increases my fear. Now I'm more afraid that it's going to happen again, which further inhibits it. And it becomes this downward spiral towards impotence, where I'm not able to have erections. And in that scenario where it's this anticipatory anxiety, man still may have a morning erection. He still may, see erotic, material out there somewhere, a billboard, or, see his spouse, or, some other kind of sexually erotic content, and feel physiological arousal and experience a full erection kind of in that setting. But then it's that setting of connecting with a spouse that anxiety comes in, that I'm going to let her down. She's going to be disappointed. I'm going to fail again. She's going to be upset. She's going to think it's about her. And all of the pressure and anxiety comes in. And in that situation, the arousal is blocked, creating this kind of situational erectile dysfunction, erectile difficulty, that is not all the time, but is with that partner, is with their spouse, is in that setting. And so that's one really common scenario where that could happen. There's others that we could get into, and I would have questions as a sex therapist to try to rule out other possibilities, but that's a really common one.
Yeah, yeah. Tish, would you mind just speaking into this wife who is losing interest? What can she do about the situation?
Yeah, I mean, I'm feeling for this couple. I think that sexual issues and experiencing sexual dysfunction can feel very isolating, can feel like in the relationship, like it can become this like divisive issue where both people have a lot of fears and shame about it. Like, is there something wrong with me that's not desirable enough? That's not like keeping his interest, right? It can feel like really rejective for her. It can even feel like there can be like resentment of like, why don't you want me? Or why am I not enough? That can bring up her own insecurity. And then for him, definitely a fear of like, okay, every man should be able to do this and be able to like sexually perform for, his spouse, and I can't. And so I'm broken, just like what Josh was speaking to there. And so I think that I would just want to, I think just encourage her that, whatever emotion she's feeling, to reach out and to make space for that if she is feeling rejected, for her to know that, it is not because she's not desirable enough, that isn't what, that is not an issue like with her desirability. And then I would want to encourage her to talk to her husband about this, to not let something like this like be quiet and silent, because then it tends to blow up and get bigger and kind of like just, it's a little bit like it becomes toxic, and that just like kind of begins to seep and impact the whole relationship. I would want to encourage the couple that if it is situational erectile dysfunction, especially, that the emotional atmosphere of the relationship really matters. And so for there to be a sense of safety in the relationship, a sense of acceptance that is about who I am as a wife, who you are as a husband, and that is bigger and stronger than how we sexually perform. That when that's the atmosphere of a relationship, like that is the culture that can cultivate sexual healing when there is dysfunction.
Mm.
There's nothing more important in a relationship than that, for that sense of safety and for that sense of connection to be protected. And so I think I would just really would want to encourage her in that it sounds like she's not feeling safe. And so I think, to give her permission to say, hey, like, this doesn't feel good to me. Like, how is this feeling to you? And to kind of begin there.
That's so
Totally.
good.
Sometimes this can get into a really vicious thing relationship wise, right? And because of our own fears and anxieties and defenses, we can react in ways that are self-sabotaging. Right? Like sometimes I'll be working with a couple, and the wife will feel rejected, will feel hurt, will feel like maybe it's about her, and him not being attracted, or maybe there's fears in her mind that he's comparing her to someone else, or maybe there's porn involved, or infidelity, or something like this. All these kinds of fears that get going, which certainly could be part of the picture. I'm not ruling those out, but obviously are not only as part of the picture. But that fear can create a defensiveness that then turns into this kind of rejection and pushing out and blaming and attack and kind of belittling in some ways because I'm hurt, I'm angry, I'm scared, so I'm not showing up as my best self. And so becomes kind of pressure and demand unintentionally from the wife to the husband, which just makes the situation worse, right? It's like, well, if you love me, you'll get an erection. Oh boy, that's a sure way to losing an erection, right? No pressure there. The measure of my love for you is whether or not I can get an erection right now. That's a lot of pressure, and pressure is not good for erections.
No, that's so good.
Not good for like achieving and maintaining erections.
Yeah, it's so good. Like these questions that we get around sex therapy simultaneously like are encouraging to me and then also heartbreaking to me because we know what sex was designed to be. And we know like the beautiful, amazing, pleasurable thing that it was designed to be. And it's sad for me to realize that we're all struggling and we all struggle in these different ways. And so it's like simultaneously so encouraging because I'm like, yes, like healing is possible. There's hope for your sexual relationship. But also, I hate that you have to go through this. Like, I hate that you're experiencing this struggle the way that you are.
Yeah.
Likewise, I feel the same way. And I feel the sadness and the compassion just having sat with so many different couples and knowing how painful it is to go through these struggles. And at the same time, kind of feel the hopefulness and appreciate just what we're doing here and getting good information out there about the reality of healing and restoration and redemption that can be a part of our sexual experience that can transform what would be or has been painful and disconnecting to something that's connective and whole and feels good and is such a rich and vibrant positive part of relationship.